Welcome back to Arielpaints. Today's video is going to be an abstract floral design. This is really great for on the job, really easy to switch up with different colors and different elements. For my new face painters out there, as always, I've woven in some tips and tricks to help you out along the way. So I hope you enjoy this video and thank you so much for joining me. I'm going to use a 3/4 inch flat. This is a long bristled flat opposed to a short, which would have the bristles cut off about halfway there. I like using the long bristled brushes for things like florals because it allows for a lot of movement in the bristles and it really helps with those flowy designs. If you're a beginner face painter, that can be a little bit trickier, so you can use a short if you feel like you have more control over that. And then as you're practicing at home, try to use some of the longer bristle brushes just to get the feel of that. Eventually, I do think it's easier to get those flowy designs and shapes out of bristles that have more movement. And I'm going to load this up with Summer Days, one of my all-time favorite cakes that I have been using for years. It's a Lee and Courtney and fusion. When I do floral designs, I do tend to lean towards more of an abstract and asymmetrical look, and this one is the epitome of that. So we're gonna do most of the design here on one side of the forehead and then cascade it down and around and give a nice kind of flow to that floral cascading pattern that we're going to do. And then I am going to do one accent on one eye as well. So it's going to give the look of a full face design, but not be overwhelming. And it's relatively simple to do on the job, so you can do it relatively quickly, but it has a really, really high impact. I'm going to start with the main petal and press down, and I am wiggling to get those little scalloped edges, and I'm going to go to a peak and then wiggle, 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 and then drag the toe of that brush back, and I'm going to let that dry and reload. I still have a decent amount of paint on this, but I'm going to continue to reload my brush. I'm not going back into water, I'm just going to go right back into the cake because it cleans up the colors and keeps them consistent and bright. Sometimes you do need to go grab more water, and sometimes you need to completely rinse out your brush and start all over so you don't get muddy. But oftentimes all you need to do is go right back into your cake, clean up those colors, and then you can keep painting. So as this dries, I'm going to do another petal at the top, up to a peak, and wiggle back. This is going to be a little bit smaller, out to a peak, and wiggle back, trying to avoid my center petal, but if I need to, I can always go back and just clean up the edge a little bit. And now I'm going to dip into a little bit of water. Just the tip of my brush went back into water, and I am going to grab more paint and do another petal. So same thing, I'm going to go on this side, and I'm going to wiggle, go to a peak, and then go back up, drag the toe a little bit. This center petal being the largest petal and the focal point, and these intended to be just a little bit smaller so we have a nice balance in the design. So this is just a made up abstract flower, but it does kind of resemble a calla lily, especially how we're going to finish off the center. I'm going to show you the movement I'm going to make, and then I'll actually press the brush down and show you the full version of me doing it. So you're going to go horizontal to the edge of the flower. We're going to scallop in, up, and then pull through, and then flip the brush so the turquoises match on that side or whatever color you choose to do. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to scallop in, press up a little bit and then pull the toe down, and it's going to give that illusion of a center of a flower. So let's do it. So I'm going to sweep up and then pull down. Now I'm going to flip, match the other side. And pull up and down. And it just gives a little bit of a hollow. Don't worry about this. We're going to fill that in later. So just ignore that. Now for our side flowers, we're only going to do one side. So we're just going to pull up and then drag that toe, flip the brush, and I need a touch more water and paint. If you feel your brush pulling a little bit and not gliding, you need water and or paint. And that is exactly what I felt. So I just stopped and I'm going to pull up and then pull that toe in. And that one looks a little light to me, so I'm gonna do the same, and I really just dragged the toe more than anything. If I was doing this on the job and moving pretty quickly, from a flow standpoint, I would probably do this bottom petal, that one, then do the bottom of this, let those dry, and then start layering it down. But oftentimes when I'm filming, I do things a little bit out of order just because it's hard to mimic exactly what you would do on the job. But if you do this design over and over again, that's something to consider, just to cut off even 30 seconds. Because everything counts when you're on the job and trying to go fast. Okay, so for this, loop, loop. I'm just gonna fill in the bottom with that pretty bright orange. And drag in, drag in to create that little hollow. I don't want to go up that high, so I'm just gonna take my finger while that's wet and pull it down so it's at a little bit of a nicer triangular shape and not square at the bottom. You don't want that. Okay, so while these continue to dry, I'm going to add a little bit of an element here that we're going to build upon as well, just to continue the abstract asymmetrical look. An easy thing to do to create variation in your designs is, instead of doing the exact same combination of colors with the turquoise on the outside, go ahead and flip your brush and have the turquoise on the inside. It's a very subtle thing to do, but if you do it on some of the larger full face designs, especially florals, it looks like a completely different flower with a very, very little effort on your part. So we're going to do that. And I'm gonna start a little bit at an angle, kind of like if you were doing a cat wing eyeliner or a cat eye. And we're going to wiggle, 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 do our scallops, pull out and do a little petal, and then same thing, little petal, keeping it small because I do not want this to overwhelm the design, and I don't want to go too far down on the face so that it's heavy. So I'm keeping it pretty small and tight to the eye. I grab some more paint. I'm gonna do one more little sprig at the top, but again, keeping it nice and tight to the eye. There we go. All right, assessing where I am right now and knowing where I want to fill in, I want this petal of the flower just to be a little bit more distinctive. So what I'm going to do is just elongate it a little bit and add a touch more movement to it. It's a subtle change. It's not necessary, and I think I've said it on my videos 100 times. A lot of the things I do in videos, I wouldn't necessarily do on the job. I probably wouldn't even notice that on the job because I'm moving so fast. But when I'm in my studio and I have the ability to adjust and change things, sometimes I do, because they're also going to live forever online. I'll show you guys the practice board of this design as well. I came up with it about a year ago when I was teaching a floral class, and it shows the petals and the movement of them a little bit cleaner. As you guys know, it's always hard to paint on your own face. This isn't terrible, but I don't love the shape of that, so I would tweak it a little bit. But in the end, when we get all the other elements on there, it'll be just fine. So now I'm going to grab a 3/4 inch short, and in case you guys don't know the difference, I will show you side by side. So I was using a 3/4 inch long, which is this one, and this is a 3/4 inch short, and it's also an angle. Different brushes, I love them both, and I swap in and out using them all the time, but for very specific things, I have preferences. So I'm going to do a little bit of a leaf element, and I'm going to use the short brush because I don't want this element to be that large and overtake anything, but I want to pick up as many colors from this cake as I can. This is Leanne's Purple Pixie, another one of my favorite cakes. And while I get this loaded up, I will tell you guys how I feel about leaves. I don't add a lot of leaf elements to my floral designs. Even when I'm doing roses, whatever it is, I just don't. But when I do, I like to do them in odd colors. I really like this cake because it has green in it, but it has purple and white and that neon yellow, and it just gives the leaf a more interesting vibe. I also like to use brown cakes for leaves, or do bright red leaves, just something that gives it more of a whimsical look. I also do not like when you have a floral design and the leaves are too big and they're taking over the design, or when people do leaves that come from the tip of the flower out just because they feel like they have to add a leaf, and they do that, and then it's not realistic. If this flower had leaves, the leaves would start down here at the stem. So that leaf would be coming out here and you just barely see the tip of it. So not my favorite element when it's added not well or balanced to design. So I'm pretty particular about how I add leafy elements. One thing I'm going to do here is at the bottom of this, instead of trying to add, more layers of flowers, or you could do like double dipped flowers or something like that, or try to add a leaf element, what I'm going to do is stick with kind of my abstract vibe and intention, and I'm just going to take this and sweep one little leaf shape at the bottom just to finish it out and fill it in. So now I'm going to do a few little leaf shapes at the bottom of this just to connect my floating flower with my main element. And I'm going to keep them pretty small. And if you go over anything you didn't mean to, just go ahead and grab your other brush that's probably still loaded with paint and clean it up. All right. While I have this on my brush, I'm going to add this color to the sides as well. And instead of like wiggling, I'm keeping a little bit more of a sharp element. And you don't need a ton of this. I just want all the colors to be incorporated and flow. So I'm going to do just a tiny bit here. All right. So to me, they don't really read as leaves so much as just an abstract element that's connecting the design, which is what I'm going for. But you can also change this up in a lot of different ways. All right, so now that we have that down, I am going to do just a little bit of line work. This is one of my absolute favorite turquoise colors ever. It's Deep Ocean 209 by Fab. It's gorgeous and really close to the turquoise in summer days too, so it goes really well, but it is just one of my all-time favorite colors. And I am going to use a round pointed 6 and get that loaded up really nicely, and we're going to add a little bit of line work to finish this off, and with a big teardrop, and then I'm going to cascade them. And then I'm going to start on the tip of that brush, and I'm going to do a swirl. And I think I'm going to take that and extend it a little bit, because I want that flow. This is a good time too, if you want to clean anything up with your round, go ahead and just make a nice distinctive edge with it, because it's pretty much that same turquoise. And let's see, I'm going to do a few dots, do some dots on our inner corners. Really quick thing to do on the job to add additional color and detail. I do that a lot. I'm going to do a few cluster dots right here in the center of the flower. And then I think I'll do, so I could go down and do a big swirl, but I don't like the idea of how that's going to make the overall design flow, and that feels heavy. So I think I'm going to try to do, let's do this. Let's do some teardrops instead. Have them pointed up so it keeps the flow of the design going up. And then I'm going to do some big dots that cascade into smaller dots. And that feels a little bit more organic to me. I'm going to take a Low Cornell number 5 round brush that I love, and I'm going to load it up with some white and add a few white dots as well. Right there in our swirl, and then here where my leaves meet my other design, and then here as well. That just adds a little bit of brightness and continues our abstract feel. I want to quickly point out the difference between these two brushes too. Whatever brand you use, there are pointed rounds, which is this one from the face painting shop. It's the round pointed 6, and I love it. And then there are round brushes that have a little bit more bristles and don't come to a point like this one does, but have a more rounded, full feel. When doing dots, like these big, white, very meaty dots, it's going to be easier for you to use a fluffier round brush. It's also much easier to get big round dots. Let's see if I can get this in the camera just right. When you load up your brush well, and then you pull a little bit of white right from it and really load the tip of that brush, you just grab your like milky white with the tip of that brush, and you want a big round dot of white on the edge, and that will allow you to do a nice big round perfect dot. If you try to do that with a pointed round, which I can do because I've done it for so long, but it's not as easy. So I will use these for dots because I'm going fast and I'm being quick and lazy. But if you're a beginner and you want those big, round, beautiful dots, it's much harder with a pointed round. You can still pick up some paint with the pointed round right on the tip of your brush, but when you go to do that dot, it's just a little bit harder to get that big round. It still looks like a nice dot, but it's not as perfectly round as that one. And as you continue to do this with the pointed round, you're gonna see it's gonna start to break up eventually and get a little bit messy, where the bigger, fluffier round doesn't as quickly. You can get these beautiful big round dots, and it's not going to break up as much like the pointed round because this is just not meant for that. So subtle difference, but it can make a big difference when you're a beginner and when you're learning. Over time, you're going to get so good at doing dots that you can do it easily with the pointed round. So it's actually hard for me to show you that it's not good because I've just been doing it for so long. So I feel like I can manipulate any brush to do what I want. But trust me, if you're starting out and you're wondering why you can't get those nice, big, fat, beautiful dots, make sure you're using the right brush. All right, the last thing I would do to this design is add a little bit of glitter. I think regular silver glitter would be nice. I have a pink glitter I'm going to add. You could add it over here, like a little bit on the side of the eye if you wanted to really have a full face design. But I like to add glitter in kind of holes in my design. So I kind of assess in the moment, because everything I paint is different. Especially on the job. So I kind of assess where there's a bigger blank space or where I might want to fill in with just a little bit of texture, and I put glitter there. So this is a chunky cream-based glitter with some silver and pink, and I'm going to add that in a few places around the design just to add some texture. Not too much. I think I'll do a little bit right here too. You don't want the glitter to overwhelm your design. You still want your painting to stand out, so sometimes with glitter less is more. But it's also a great way to hide mistakes. You know, if I didn't like something, which I don't really like how this petal meets up with that, so I just chucked some glitter on there. It's a quick fix. Thank you guys for joining me today. I really appreciate it. As always, please like and subscribe to my channel. It really helps me continue to make free content for you. And comment down below. Let me know what videos you'd like to see, what questions you have, and thank you so much for watching.